Hi, I'm Judy Maxwell from the Study and Learning Centre at RMIT University, and this is part 2 of the module on structuring the thesis lit review. The objective of this section is to understand a range of ways to structure the body of the lit review. The body of a lit review often begins by highlighting the major concepts and influential studies. We also need to look for areas of agreement, tensions, inadequacies and controversy, grouping together authors who say similar things and constructing debate with others who disagree. It's usual to gradually narrow the focus to studies closest to your own towards the end until you identify the gap or space where your own research fits. One of the hurdles we have to overcome is to decide how to structure the body so that it tells the story of the literature that's relevant to your study in a clear and logical way, and we'll discuss this in a moment. The first difficulty most writers have is to move from the chaos resulting from copious amounts of literature to an organised piece of writing that flows clearly. Here's one way many writers attempt to organise the body of the lit review. A paragraph on one researcher's ideas, then a paragraph on another researcher's ideas, etc., etc. But this is not an effective way to organise the literature because all it does is tell the story of each writer, not the story of what's known around your research topic. So what are some of the ways in which we can structure the body of the lit review? Here are some common structures that might provide the most logical way for your study. Although it's important to remember that some lit reviews also use a combination of structural approaches. It can be structured around a couple of topics. This is common in research that examines the relationship between two variables. For example, in this simple lit review, the topics are evident in the overall research topic. This researcher needed to look at the literature that discussed models of use and models of demand. Another way to do it is chronologically. This is useful when the emphasis is on the development of practices or theories over time. It's usually ordered from the more distant to the more recent. For example, this lit review moves from the antecedents of building regulation, 2.2, through settlement to federation, to post-federation, and ends after World War II. You might notice that this lit review doesn't have an identified introduction or conclusion. However, the first section functions as an introduction, and there's much contextual information in the sections before 2.2, when the chronological information begins. The last paragraph of the final section also functions as a conclusion and identifies the link between the lit review and the research topic. You could also structure your lit review through different theories. Here's a good example of using a combination of structures. Notice that there are 2 lit review chapters. Chapter 2 discusses a variety of theories relevant to research topic and debate, while Chapter 3 is structured around themes. Another way of doing it is through methodologies. This lit review discusses qualitative and quantitative studies separately. It also has a meta-analysis, which is common in disciplines such as psychology. The most common way to structure the lit review body, though, is around themes or concepts. Here's an example of a series of themes moving from a general understanding of knowledge to knowledge management to the more specific ICT and knowledge management and associated issues and concerns. Themes are most often arranged from those more general to the more specific. But at the same time that it's moving from the general to the specific, it's also becoming more conceptually dense. More concepts are being discussed, and all with a greater intensity and narrowing of focus. This is further explained in the practice activity in Part 3. The key thing to remember is never to lose sight of your own research topic. All of the literature has to relate to it in some way.